Hello and welcome to the Rose Rehash. That's right. Every Monday night after the Bachelorette, we recap the show, we give out awards, and I take your audience questions. All you got to do if you want your question answered on the show, tag me at Jared Freid, and we'll answer it at the end of the show. We'll get to your question. But tonight was the men's tell-all. Before we get to that, also, I'm going to be in Orlando, Florida this weekend doing shows. Orlando, Richmond, Mohegan Sun, DC, Boston, Baltimore. JaredFreid.com for tickets. Okay, so tonight was the men's tell-all. There's not a lot to say about the men's tell-all. I think it's like kind of it's a tough episode for me. I thought there was interesting things, but before we got to the men's tell-all, we start with Michael A. taking himself off the show. If you know Michael A.'s story, his wife has passed away. He has a child, and he's made it a big thing where he's like, I miss my kid, which totally, like there's anyone here that can disagree with that would even think he doesn't miss it. That's insane, But so start the episode with Michael A. is on the phone with his child, and he's going, Daddy, I miss you. And he's like, do you miss me, buddy? And it's like, it's all heart-wrenching and sad, but then he basically says something along the lines of, do you even want to the line was something like, do you even want to, come home to me? Do you want to do you care that you're leaving it? And it's like, it becomes this thing where Michael A goes to Katie and is like, I got to leave the show. I got to leave the show because it's heart-wrenching to not be with my kid. And he said something that struck a chord with me. Here's the thing with Michael A. You can't disagree with his plight. He has a son at home. Of course, he's been out of shape. I believe that Michael A. was like, do I want to bring a new woman into my life and introduce them to my kid, my parents, my in-laws? Like, do I want to bring her in? And he has to judge yes or no. Do I want that responsibility? And he said no. And it's interesting to me because whenever you end something, you have to have a reason. And he's like, well, I have this ironclad reason of my kid. I miss my kid. I don't buy that as the reason he left the show. He's been away from his kid for how many weeks? Now he says that one thing and he says one line and it's, I don't know. It's tough to talk about because you go, I know he is breaking up with Katie because he goes, I don't want to be with you forever, Katie. That's what he's saying. And he can't say that. Hey, Katie, I thought of it. I was like, do I want to go through this with her right now? Or do I think I can find someone just as good for me than you? And that's what he did. That was the math he did. But then it turns into this whole well, my kid said this on the phone. It's like, it's tough for me to buy because the goal of every person that comes on The Bachelor, Bachelorette is to get out of the show without being disliked. And I think Michael saw his out. He saw an opportunity to go, yeah, I'm going to blame it, on missing my kid, which no one can disagree with. And then I'm going to, it won't have to be that I'm disappointing this woman. And so Michael leaves the show. Now we go to the men tell all. The men tell all is fine. We start with a big rehash of all the drama. We have to talk to this guy, Cody, that we met for 4 minutes, that we didn't even get the full story on what he did. Him and Aaron had some drama for 7 seconds in the beginning of the season. We go over that. We go over Carl, who's a joke. Carl stood up and he's like, he does this heartfelt, has anyone here made a mistake in your life? And it's like, Carl, stop. That's like asking if anyone here has breathed air in their life. And it's like, we start to see that the type of liar Carl is. Then we go to Hunter. Hunter has his moment where there's a debate of whether he was in love with her or not. It really doesn't matter. Then we go to the hot seats. There's 3 hot seats. Connor gets brought to the hot seat. I thought Connor had the most embarrassing hot seat. There's nothing worse than being like, come on over here and tell us if you're a bad kisser or not. It's because all these people are really trying to set up their next thing. Whatever their next thing is. Is it their podcast? Is it that they want to go on, be the Bachelor? Is it that they want to hook up with the people in their DMs? Connor, you're not exactly doing yourself a favor when you're like, I texted all my exes, and then to see if I was a good kisser or not. Then a woman pops up out of her seat and she's like, I think you're a great kisser. I can't believe you're a bad kisser. Will you kiss me? And it's like, this is why the Men Tell All can be great, because we are in a live studio audience, which we have been missing out on for this pandemic year. And it is the dome of the undateables, the people that go to the Men Tell All. It feels like the most single people you've ever seen on TV. Everyone there is super emotional. They're super hanging on every word. Like, who goes to the Men Tell All? Who's like, I'll be back. I'm going to go watch, other people fall in love. If I watch it enough, maybe I'll learn for when I can fall in love. And it's like, hilarious. So this woman, she stands up, she's like, I'll kiss you. And all I could think about when she was going towards the stage is like, what if a man did this? What if a man stood up and was like, Katie, I think you're a great kisser. And like security would be literally handcuffing the tongue from his mouth. So great, fun moment. And now we bring Andrew on the hot seat. Andrew, I'm starting to understand why Katie and Andrew didn't work out, because I almost fell asleep during Andrew's whole thing. Like, I get it. Andrew, you want to fall in love. Maybe one day he's like, maybe someone will love me. There was a lot on the Men Tell All, and this happens every year, of men saying things that they know people want to hear. So like, Andrew, a good looking professional football player, going, maybe one day a woman will like me. It's like, yeah, Andrew, you're going to be just fine. Trey did a lot of this where he's like, I came here for the woman. I came here to find my girl. And it's like, yeah. Everyone loves you guys. Everyone loves you guys. It's a little too much. Then we bring Michael A into the hot seat. Michael A sits down and they go over his whole progression on the show. And the crowd is crying. Everyone's crying. And they come back to Kaitlyn and Tayshia and they're like, yeah, you okay? Cool. So you and her didn't end up together. It's like, I didn't think Kaitlyn and Tayshia showed like not an ounce of emotion during this whole thing. They were just like, at one point, Kaitlyn was like looking for tears. She was like, can I find an emotion in here? So then we come back to, so Michael A leaves the hot seat, and at the end of his hot seat interview, they're like, so if Katie wanted to come back to you, would you go back to her? And it's like, again, this goes back to my original premise of this episode where Michael A goes, yeah, of course I would give it another shot with Katie, because he knows that's not going to happen. He also knows that he doesn't have to introduce her to his whole family anymore. That's not the next step. On the show, the next step was, you must meet my child. Now it's, yeah, come out. We'll go get some drinks and see what happens. And it's like, of course now he gets to still be the good guy. So it's like, I don't blame him for that, but that's how this show operates. If you escape the good person, you have a chance at being the Bachelor. You have a chance at a next act. And that's what happened with Katie. Katie walked away from the Bachelorette being, the anti-bully person. And she walked away clean and good. And everyone else was the bad person. So now she becomes the Bachelorette. This is how it all goes down. So after the Michael A thing, the most insane thing happened on this show. I have been talking all season about how Kaitlyn and Tayshia have kind of taken over the show a little bit, where they kind of are it just doesn't feel like they're the host. It doesn't feel like they're like treating Katie as this, like, the queen of this show. And Tayshia's like, now I have a very special surprise. And she brings out Jason, Kaitlyn's fiance, and they show their engagement. I'm like, what are we watching here? Why are we watching Kaitlyn's engagement? I thought she was the host. Why is this about Kaitlyn? If anyone turned on the show at that moment, they'd be like, this is Kaitlyn's season, isn't it? No, this isn't. And then they show the engagement. I guess Jason proposed to her during her podcast. He literally is holding the mic he's proposing to her, being like, I couldn't be with anyone but you. And he's like, and this is all brought to us by MeUndies. You can use promo code We're Engaged to get 20% off your next pair of underwear. It's like, This is the most crazy thing I've ever seen. And you're like, the whole season, we're all sitting here being like, is Kaitlyn and Tayshia trying to make this about them? And then they make it about them. Kaitlyn's like, oh, I just couldn't believe when I saw the ring. It's like, why are we talking about you now? Finally, Katie comes out and they bring out Katie, and all the men basically do a speech about how she changed their outlook on love and life and the pursuit of happiness. And then that's all bullshit. And then they bring on Thomas on a video conference. Thomas proves himself. Like, if I was in Thomas's life, I would be like, this guy's a liar, because he did the most liar move. He was like, I'm not going to show up to the men tell all, and I'm going to control the conversation by doing a video conference. So he comes on this video conference, which felt like he taped it without, like, before. They were like, yeah, he's on video chat. And then he was like, and he went on to a whole monologue, and then he goes, and thank you. And then like, thank you, Thomas. And then he went away. And it's like, was this pre-taped? What's going on? Why didn't Thomas come? Give us the reason. And it's like, yeah, you were a liar the whole time. Everyone was right about you. So then it ends with bloopers. I hate the bloopers. I feel like I'm watching the popular kids do a sketch during the pep rally where all we have to go, oh, look how cool they are. It feels like when you're on TikTok and you watch like Bryce Brycerson and all their buddies that are hot with abs just like dance, and you're like, who is this for? Like, why am I watching this? And that was our episode. Let's give out some awards. So the Batchies is where I give out awards. I give out roses to my favorite characters and divorce papers to my least favorite characters. Let's give out some roses. My first rose is going to go to the woman who was dressed as a cat. Good for you. You came out and you left the house tonight. I'm sure that was tough. And you were like, I'm going to go out dressed as a cat because someone out there has the same type of personality as me. And I'm going to wear my ears. I'm going to wear them proudly. And you know what? Good for round of applause. You left the house. You did it. You went out and you hung out with a group of people. And I'm sure it's been a long time since you've done that. And I'm happy for you. The woman dressed as a cat, you did it. My next rose is going to go to the dome of the undateables. Anyone who goes to the men tell all is so themselves that I have to like appreciate them. The fact that you go to a taping about someone else falling in love because you're so interested in love and they're crying on every word and they're watching and they're in on everything and they're oohing and they're eyeing, and you're like, I love all of you. Anyone who shows up to the Men Tell All taping, thank you for coming and just being your total self and just living on, just wearing all your emotions on your sleeve, and I love you for that. The last rose is going to go to Connor. The woman walked towards you and you legitimately made her feel like a princess. That woman came out of the crowd. She was like, I think you're a great kisser. And he goes, get over here and put those lips on mine, and you tried again. And I appreciate that for you. I think that's great. I love that you even told her, like, this is how nice a guy Connor is. Connor sees a woman stand up in the dome of the undateables, and he goes, and she goes, I just want to see if you're a good kisser. And he goes, I was checking you out before. And it's like, you don't even have to say that. You're being too nice. Like, what a guy. She comes over, they kiss twice. He gives her his number. Connor, class act, so much fun, great scene. Let's give out some divorce papers. The first divorce paper is going to go to Michael A. I don't buy it. Michael A., I'm sorry. I am more willing to believe that you were like, I don't want to introduce her to my kid because that's too serious for me. And that's okay. But the minute you change the story and the narrative to, my kid says he misses me too much and that just kills me. It's like, dude, I don't buy it. And to me, it's a very good reason to say, I tried dating her. This is just too much too soon. It ain't going to happen. And so Michael A., but I do like Michael A. This isn't to say I don't like him, but it just didn't buy it. The next divorce paper is going to go to the woman who kissed Connor. I'm proud of Connor for bringing you in, but for you, it's just like, so in the middle of the show, you're just gonna stand up and be like, I gotta take this chance. I need to let everyone know. How were you mic'd? How did you have a microphone on? How does that happen? Do you walk into the men tell all and you go, I have something to say. Can you give me a microphone? And they just go, sure, here you go. Yeah, I guess you're in. The last divorce paper goes to the blooper, or no, the last divorce paper goes to Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn, you're the host of the show. You're supposed to be propping up Katie. And in the middle of the men tell all, you say, let's talk about my engagement. Let's talk about the ring that I got. Let's show me on camera scoffing at the size of my ring and how great it is. And then you go, Kaitlyn, who do you think wanted to see this? In your mind, who was out there going, oh, I just want to see how Kaitlyn got engaged? No, there wasn't one person in America that was sitting there being like, well, hold on, forget Katie. How did you get your rock? And it's like, we have to sit here and like act like we're a part of this. We're like happy, it all was kind of gross. It was all kind of like, it kind of was very emblematic of how the whole season went. Let's take your questions. How would you change the men tell all if you were the host? I would be a more active host. If I were the host, I would be questioning the guys. I would say, Carl, tell me more about who you thought. Like, what happens is they let all the characters on the show question each other. No. I want the host at the drive. I want them at the steering wheel. I want them asking the questions. I want the person who's in charge stirring the drink. Hey, Katie, why did you really believe that it was his kid that he left the show for? Or the host should look at Michael A and go, did you leave because you thought it was too much to introduce Katie to your family? Or did you leave because you really missed your kid? That's a question that has to be asked. Let's go to the next one. Do you think Michael A could be the next Bachelor? I hope. I think that would be an amazing show, because if Michael A is the Bachelor, what it does is it takes out all of the people that come on for antics and hijinks. So like Queen Victoria from Matt James' season couldn't come on to a season where a widowed man has a child, because you'd go, you're being an asshole. You're wasting our time. There's just the idea of wasting this guy's time as an element of it. So you couldn't have the crazies couldn't come on. You'd have to really be serious. And I think this show is best when people are really seriously trying to date the Bachelor, Bachelorette. Let's do one more. How do you think Victoria the Goddess will do in Paradise? I guess she'll do fine. Like, I don't know I don't know. I don't know. I think she'll go on Paradise, and I don't think anyone will date her, to tell you the truth. I think, to me, it's too much of an endeavor, because then you become a part of the carnival. So I don't think she'll last very long, to tell you the truth. Let's see another one. Do you think Kaitlyn Tasha will also host The Bachelor? I hope not. I think they need a host. I think they need to like commit to someone. This is too half-assed. It's too. They even call themselves mentors. Like, no. I wanted to watch Kaitlyn's engagement less than anything in the entire world. There's nothing I wanted to watch less than Kaitlyn's engagement, and they totally missed the mark. Let's do one more. Jared, where's your action figure? I think it's right there. Got it right in the corner. Little Johnny. That's our episode. Back next week. Boom.